Hey everyone. Every year I do a little portfolio requirements at Sheridan unveiling. So I thought I would do the same thing this year, especially since the portfolio has actually changed a fair bit, as anyone that will have applied will know. So I'm just going to do a quick run through of different things. Um, so this is the Sheridan portfolio requirements. It's very much so. This whole section, as far as I can tell, is exactly the same as all previous years. It's all the wording is exactly the same. Shading is not required. It's one thing that I really want everyone to hear. Line is sufficient. Showing construction is acceptable. AKA they like showing some construction. It's nice to not just see the final rigid line, but also a sense of movement in the pose. So that's kind of how I read that. Um, for drawings of the human figure, clothed or nude, it's well known that they prefer nude drawings, and you're going to be doing this all throughout life drawing in college, anyways. So just get acquainted with that. Really, do not draw from photographs or books. It still says that. And these two poses, the time lengths are the same. So you have two gestures and two slightly longer poses, even though in any other artistic discipline this would still pretty much be considered a gesture. Two freehand line drawings of a human hand performing the following action. So this is the same as it has been before. Just a reminder for folks, you don't have to have that object visible in the first pose. It can be hidden in the fist. It states it right there. So just to, a lot of people don't do that. They feel like they need to have that object visible. So I just wanted to re-emphasize that. Second drawing, hand releasing or tossing the object gently or forcefully onto a surface. So yeah, that's the same as always. Um, yeah, the character rotation, same views. They still have removed the back view, so don't include a back view because that will imply that you can't read instructions. So I still see back views almost every year, so I just want to mention that. Yeah, front view, three-quarter view, profile view, side view is what that is. Three-quarter back view, everyone's most hated view right there. There it is again. Okay, the short animation. It still has, unfortunately, vague language here, and I hope that if anyone from Sheridan reads this, they could maybe correct this, because I get tons of students every year wondering what the heck this means. Of 24 to 48 images, is this frames? Is this actual drawings? And I interpret this as drawings because I see a lot of people that hand in 96 framed animations, which means that every other frame, it includes an actual exposure drawing on it, right? So how this works in animation is that typically, even if it's 24 frames per second of video, the actual artist will only actually draw 12 frames within that second, and then each frame will be held for two exposures, two frames basically. So in 24 frames, you get only 12 drawings. And so that's why there's a discrepancy here between what they think and what, the Sheridan's asking for. So I see a lot of 4-second animations, which would be 96 frames, but 48 drawings. So I interpret this as drawings. So anyways, just do a 4-second animation is fine. And honestly, they don't seem to be too fussy with this. I've seen some that are even more than that, and they still do well if the animation is good. So the quality is always of the utmost priority with this portfolio. So just that's the main focus here. But yeah, I wish they would maybe just say 4 to 6 seconds or something. I think that'd be so much more clear. 4 to 6 seconds, 24 frames per second. That's it. Let students decide the rest. It doesn't really matter beyond that point. If it works, it works. Like, you can see it in the motion, in my opinion. So, yeah, no color shading, especially. Don't make it fancy. Like, don't dull it up. They're going to be able to see right through that. Just make the actual animation using quality work, and use the principles of animation: squash and stretch, follow through, etc. S and C curves. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. I don't recommend this software, honestly. There's a lot of better ones. Even a lot of my students use Procreate on the iPad, and that seems to do pretty well, although it does have some pretty severe limitations. A dedicated animation software is always, always, always going to be better. I really like TV Paint, but a lot of students don't want to invest in that, so maybe something like just a month or two of Adobe Animate is probably better and a little bit easier. Okay, and here's the big change in the storyboarding section. So now there's two. So before there was they've kind of split the previous single storyboarding requirement into like two that both have aspects of the old version. So there's the storyboarding and then beat boards. So storyboarding, so it's funny because the previous Sheridan storyboard prior to this year, prior to 2024, it was actually always more of a beat board because you only had the 4 panels. So you kind of have to do like a beginning, middle, development, and then like conclusion, solution, whatever. You need to be very brief. And anytime that you're not drawing the frame by frame, frame by frame, panel by panel storyboards, it's pretty much a beat board. A beat board is also a little bit different in that sometimes you'll draw scenes that you wouldn't exactly have in the storyboard, but that communicate a story element more clearly than if you were to actually shoot it panel by panel. So that's a little bit confusing to describe, but I'm going to also reference a great video in this video in the description below by Tonico Pantoa that goes through storyboards and beat boards a little bit more clearly. But there's a lot you can see on this, but generally beat boards can be sometimes a bit wider or just include all of the different elements in a single board, whereas normally when you'd shoot that in a storyboard you wouldn't see all that together. You'd see it through so many panels that would make that clear. So all this to say is that storyboarding is more precise, more, you see close-ups, you see medium shots. In the old beat board, it was hard to fit in that close-up because you only have 4. So to have a close-up that narrows the background, that you only see the character's expression, felt like a lot to sacrifice if you only had those 4 panels. So now that you have 10 to 12 panels for the storyboard, you get to make what's kind of more like a true storyboard. You get to have a variety of shots, an establishing shot. Maybe the character doesn't even need to be in every single shot if you don't need them to be. So yeah, I actually really like this. I like that they're getting students to do more of a true storyboard. Also really interesting to identify in their write-up here, a lot more description than previous. Effective storytelling, poses, facial expressions, camera angles. This is a telling line right here. Ensure we can identify the character, but keep the drawings loose. Very important. It's funny because the Sheridan storyboard is notorious for like having the most cleaned up storyboards than you'll probably ever see again, because storyboards historically are not clean. They are very, very loose. They're clear, but they're not clean. And that's something that you need to get used to because that's very common in the animation industry. Okay, so another interesting part about this is that you're using your own original character design for this. I expect many will probably use the character design they did the rotation of. I'm not sure. And they want you to tell a simple visual story. And here's the premise. So like the previous storyboard of 2023 or before, there's a premise. They give you the kind of what they want the theme of the story to be. Action springs out of what we fundamentally desire. It's a pretty open-ended theme here. Basically just that, like, when we desire something, we move towards making that happen. So that leaves pretty much everything open. Just that a strong motivation is the core of this story. That's all. Okay, so now the beat board. So this is more like the original Sheridan storyboard where it's only 4 panels, but you're using this new character, and it's a new character this year that they provided. It's the platypus right here. So you're using this platypus character, and it's nice that they've given you an actual true rotation, including a back view, whereas the fox previously was just a front and a side view. Okay, so yeah, here it is. Yeah, but this time you're choosing the theme yourself. It's not based on one that they provide. So you're choosing your own theme, and I don't even know if you need to visually state that or not. There's not really room on the storyboard template to write in what your theme is, so maybe you just have to make that clear through the beat boards themselves. Yeah, so again, pencil or digital, doesn't matter. Color and shading are not required. Yeah, and again, loose line work. So they're really emphasizing this, really interesting, and I really like that. It still says this, so maybe still have a close-up. But nonetheless, don't rely on text. Just be aware these are visual storyboards. Animation is a visual medium. You want to do everything you can to explain the story through the poses, through the camera angle, through the backgrounds, things like that, props, whatever you need. Okay, so storyboard, and so it's still 20 marks on the marking sheet. It's still the same amount, but now it's split between these two parts. Perspective line drawings are exactly the same. One thing that I noticed recently that was on previous years that I didn't realize is that a lot of people miss is let's see, do not draw the same place twice. So in your exterior and interior, they should be different places. So maybe even the fact that they say that makes me think that maybe you do a totally different feeling and mood to the environment than what you did for your interior or exterior, vice versa. So interior, exterior, and again, just I'm re-emphasizing this because I still see this quite a bit. They want to see natural elements, trees, rocks, rivers. So make sure to include, a more naturalistic background. But do convey a good sense of depth. Sometimes I find it's like a forest scene and there's a tree line and then it's just flat. Make the forest have a sense of depth if you're going to do that. You can have some human-made elements, but just make sure that it's not like too much of the composition. Another thing about the layouts, you have to have a character, include one or more characters interacting with it, but don't make it so character dominant that it's more of a character study than a layout. These should be perspective line drawings first and foremost. It says it right there. Shading is optional. I do like tonals, honestly. I find it can help clarify, but you can do a lot with just your line quality alone. I don't see any students including earlier drafts of the design. This is a great opportunity. Thumbnail sketches are excellent. I love seeing thumbnail sketches. It helps you see more of what you're capable of rather than just the final. And that's everything. Like animation is so much about the process of how you work. So I wouldn't miss out on including that in this document. Probably just little thumbnails at the top or something. That could be fine. And it has to be widescreen, but exactly 16:9 ratio, probably not. Just wide generally. This is pretty much the same. The only thing that I could notice that was different in the personal work section was this part. Do not bundle unrelated artwork in a PDF. I've had some students in the past that have done this. They just don't know where to put it, so they just shove all of this sort of unrelated work into one big PDF, and that's one personal work. Seems like they're going to be a little bit more critical about this year. So I think part of what I'm seeing in that too is just maybe be a little bit more brief about your personal work. You don't need to include tons and tons of personal work. It says 5 to 7 pieces. You really don't need to do a whole lot more than that. The sketchbook is a multi-page PDF, which, by the way, if you're going to do that, Combine PDF is a great reference. Just upload a bunch of high-resolution JPEGs and then upload it right here, and then you can combine it into a PDF for those that don't know about that. So that's how I would do that, just FYI. And really read through the rubric as always. Oh, and here's your short animation character. It's a new character this year. Cuppy, as he's become sort of known as. Really fun, almost ironic face. I can't wait to see all the ways that Cuppy will get thrown around and bashed about in the short animation. But a little more detail too. Make sure not to miss these little details. They've included them, so make sure to include those. I like that there's no edges. I think that'll be a nice break from previous object animations. And as always, just here's the storyboard. Nothing has changed here. It's still pixelated, shockingly. Sheridan, you should probably improve that. I'd be happy to if you want to get me to do it. But nonetheless, here's the marking sheet as always. So make sure to read through this very thoroughly because it does give you a bit of heads up as to what not to spend time on. The short animation is just about believable motion, clarity, and composition. It's not about your story. It's just about the animation, the technical quality of the animation itself. So don't worry too much about that. So anyways, read through this thoroughly. And I hope this video was useful. I do one of these every year and I tutor students worldwide. Don't hesitate to contact me. All the links of my courses and mentorships are in the description. And I'm a past grad of Sheridan quite a few years ago now. But anyways, I really enjoy when the portfolio requirements get released every year and I get to see, what changes there are because it's strangely exciting for me. Anyways, I hope this was helpful, everyone. Take care.